Coffee is, I look at it as a social catalyst. It's the one thing that will always bring people together. And that's one of my passions with this industry because it creates conversation. And when you think about specialty coffee, every one of these coffees were all hand-picked from origin. The one thing I will ask during the cupping is keep your thoughts to yourself because the power of suggestion is huge when it comes to tasting coffee. If you taste blueberries and you say it out loud, everyone who comes behind you is going to look for blueberries and automatically say they're tasting blueberries. Anybody can taste coffee. There are 10% of people in the world that is classified as a super taster, which have got more capillaries on their tongue and they can taste better. But it's all training. So like whenever you're out eating food, take a mental note of what you're tasting. Try to identify it because it's all about creating a vocabulary of flavor. But an interesting thing on a genetic level is women will always be better at tasting coffee than men. They're already born within their DNA with more capillaries. So they will be able to taste better than a man ever will. Eat a strawberry, make a mental note of what you're tasting. If you're eating a melon, whatever you're eating, make a mental note of it so then that way you've got something to pull from when you come to a table. And it doesn't matter what you're tasting, it gives you the ability to identify a lot more of what's going on in what you're tasting. And it's as simple as spending an extra 5 seconds on when you're eating something to just make that mental memory. Make that mental note for yourself, and then when you come back to something else, it'll just aid you in the long run. And do you guys know what retronasal breathing is? It will help with a lot of the aromas. So when you breathe in, if you breathe out back through your nose, then you bring those aromas back through your nasal passage.
The hard thing is finding the words for what you're.
There is no wrong answer. If you think it smells like your grandma's attic, break your grandma's attic. What we'll get to the point is once we start discussing the coffees, we'll start finding similarities. So me saying mold could relate to your grandma's attic of the mold and mist, say in the attic. So there is no wrong answer. It's about the way you perceive the smell and the aromas. Once I add the water, what we need to do, we need to be quick with the aromas when it's wet because we've only got 4 minutes till we do our break. So don't spend too much time on each cup. Walk through, smell them all, and then let everybody else come behind you because like I said, we'll only have 4 minutes. The biggest thing with coffee that happens a lot, you can have the best coffee in the world, but you've got so many chains that handle the coffee for each of their parts. If all it takes is one person to do something wrong, and you mess up everybody else's hard work. So biggest thing when you're brewing coffee at home or doing a cupping is make sure everything is consistent. So all these cups, the grounds have been weighed, the water's been weighed to what each of these cups will hold, the grind's consistent. It's all about consistency. No matter what you do with coffee, keep it the same. You only get one shot at it. Once you break the crust, do not go back and try to re-break it. So everybody, we're not all going to be able to break one from each flight. So pick a cup, stay with it, the flights that stand out more to you. Do not stir the bottom of the cup because we don't want to bring the grounds back to the top. Okay. And the reason of the break, what happens is you're releasing all the CO2 that's trapped underneath. So you get one good solid smell of all of the aromas. So that's why you only get one shot at it. And then what I'm doing here is cleaning the top because what will happen is the creme at the top, you'll have a little bit of grounds left in it, but also you got a lot of the oils that are still in the coffee, and what will happen is those oils will plug your tongue so it'll make it harder to taste. With coffee, you've got 3 different processes. You've got washed, which the majority of these coffees are washed, and pulp natural. So a wash, what will happen is when the cherry's ripe, they'll pick it and it'll go through a machine called the pulper, which will pull all the meat off the cherry. And then it sits in a fermentation tank for anywhere between 8 to 12 hours, and then it is dried on patios. You've got pulp natural, which is where they pull off the majority of the meat off the cherry, and then it's dried. So what will happen is the bean will absorb some of the sugars from the fruit. And then you've got natural process, which is where the cherry's ripe, it is picked and then dried with the cherry on it. So the bean literally absorbs all of the sugars from the fruit. And then it's broken off. So that's where you get the very sweet, sort of fruit-forward coffee. Do not choke the first time you're doing it wrong. Because the point of the slurp is you want to aspirate all your taste buds at the exact same time. If you just grab it and sip it, then what will happen is as the coffee's cooling on your palate, you're getting different flavor compounds. So the goal is to aspirate it on your tongue, on all your taste buds at the exact same time. 9 times out of 10, if it's your first time doing it, you do it and then you choke. It's gonna happen. I still do it every now and then, and I've been doing it for almost 17 years. And one thing I will say, first time cupping, trust your first instinct. Whatever comes to mind, record that down. As soon as you start second guessing yourself, you're gonna be all over the map on your flavor profiles.
So how close should the taste be to what you smell? Because should be a good correlation between the two?
Generally you get a good correlation. What you'll find different in the taste is the intensities. But some coffees, as they cool, because as the coffee's cooling, the chemical structure of the coffee is changing. So you will get differences in the cup from where your aroma's at. You can have an extremely muted aroma, but have a super intense flavor. For me, it's just, you find so many different flavor compounds in coffee that there are literally some coffees you'll taste and it'll taste like a green pepper, or it'll taste like pepper, or it'll taste like cinnamon, blueberries, melon. All of those characteristics are compounds that you can find in coffee. If you don't know how to identify it, because there's so much more going on in the cup, so if you don't know how to separate the flavor compounds, it's going to be a lot harder to try to identify. I literally had somebody use that term on a Sumatran coffee before. That's why I always go back to that term. They wrote down grandma's attic in a cupping class, and I was like, how? And then we started discussing how, and it turned out because of the fermentation process of the coffee, it was very musky, it had a little bit of mold to it, and it just corresponded very well with his interpretation of what his grandma's attic smelled like. Yeah. It's an agricultural product. It is going to fluctuate throughout the year, and that's why it's so good to make sure you're buying fresh coffees. So somebody who buys Sumatra year-round, the last bag they buy at the end of the year, like right now you're running into old crop Sumatra coffees because new crop doesn't come in until February. But the person who buys Sumatra coffee all the way throughout the year, it's not going to be the same as it was when they first had it, as opposed to when they have it at the end of the year. And that's one of the things where there's got to be a lot more education done on the consumer side of things, because you can have better coffees if you work from a seasonal program. If you're always working with fresh coffees, because every country is going to have a different harvest time. So what you start noticing in aged coffee is you start losing some of your intensities. Your body starts becoming a little bit more muted, a little bit more subtle, and you've got more of a, generally like a really old coffee, you'll get a lot of wood. Like you pulled out wood in there, that's perfect, because that is an aged coffee. There is generally if you taste cedar, that's the one that people always seem to correlate with age. If you taste cedar, it's probably gonna be a past crop coffee, but that being said is, like I said, there's no wrong answer when coming tasting coffee. Me saying I taste cedar could be you tasting smoke or hickory. It's all about having your flavor language. So the other big thing in origin, my first trip to Honduras, we took some coffee that we got from that farm the previous year. They had never tasted their own coffee. They drank Nescafe, instant coffee. That's what they drank, because they export everything out of the country. They don't know what their product tastes like. They know it from an agricultural standpoint and a plant standpoint. A healthy plant is going to produce a good flavor. And then you get into your different varietals. So you've got your sort of main varietals. You've got Typica, Caturra, Catawai, Madagascar, Marcatora, and Barboa. And then those are your sort of main families, but you've got thousands upon thousands of different varietals of coffee, to the point where they no longer name them, they number them. So you can have Ethiopian H134. They just don't have a name for it, so they number them. Who am I to say how you like your coffee? You could like your coffee strong, and you could say, well, I use a 19-to-1 and I don't care what anybody else says. That's your preference, that's what you enjoy. The thing with coffee that we need to do more as consumers and professionals is start with education. It all boils down with education, because coffee is a fascinating thing. And if your consumers are uneducated, if we're not giving education to our consumers, then they're just going to do whatever they think is right without actually doing the coffee justice. Because time and time again, I'll go over to a friend's place and they just use their regular drip machine and they're buying high-end coffee. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Because you're ruining all of the hard work that somebody has put into the product.